assuming a day, whatever, 7 probably. Leg day, not bad leg day today. My leg days are a bit different at the moment. I mean, not different. They're just, I don't go as hard as my other sessions. I don't do as many frequency of leg days, and I don't do as many sets to failure, mainly because I don't need them. If you ain't broke, don't fix it. I'm getting plenty of leg gains. And then also I'm doing a lot of MMA at the moment, so my legs were cooked as fuck before this workout. But I got through it, and I still progressively overloaded, and that's okay. But anyway, today I want to talk about the things I wish I knew about leg day when I first started on leg day. The first one is something I've always talked about, which is if you hate leg day, which I did, and most people do, then do high intensity training, because it'll make leg day easy as shit. And contrary to popular belief, high intensity is easy as shit. High intensity leg days are easy as shit. I actually love training legs now because I do high intensity. It's in and out, and it's quick and it's intense, but it's not that hard, really. It's just not. Someone in the comments said the other day, oh, well, you should go train with Dorian Yates and fucking the Scottish dude that used to train, I can't remember his name, Leroy. Oh, you do fucking man up. Then I'm like, man, I already do all that shit. I already train legs to failure. It's fucking not that hard. When you listen to Dorian Yates during Blood and Guts, he's putting on a bit of a show. It's not that fucking hard to take legs to failure. I do it all the time. Like today I was exhausted. I had fuck all sleep. I did 2 bouts of MMA the day before. I was just tired, and I'm cutting weight. And even then, really, wasn't that fucking hard to do. So I don't buy that shit. When people say, oh yeah, no, you're just not training as hard. Yeah, no, I'm going to failure, and that's it. And I've done harder leg days. Like I've done drop sets and rest pauses and fucking band, like BFR, which gives you the most burning pump, higher reps. And even then it wasn't that hard. But that shit wasn't even as effective as what I'm doing now. So the first thing is just, like do high intensity. I wish I knew that. I would have been far more ahead far more ahead than I am now, because, as you can see, my legs aren't very strong. They're decently big now for how brutally genetically inferior they are compared to most people's, but they're quite weak. And that's the next point, which is, I wish I knew about getting my fucking hips fixed before, before leg days, like 8 years ago or whatever, I wish I was doing more hip stretches, because a lot of my dysfunction is coming from my hips. Because you can see here, right, for the Bulgarian split squat, my left side cannot produce nearly as much force as my right side. And that's because the actual hip socket is loose, because I've just got a bunch of muscular dysfunction in there. The piriformis, I got like piriformis syndrome due to sciatica and all this shit. And if I had just done some unilateral movements and done a bunch of stretching for my hips, I'd be a lot stronger by now. I'd be a lot stronger by now if I was consistent by doing leg days more frequently too, and that would have came with doing high intensity. But then the second thing would have just been fixing my fucked up hips, because a lot of this dysfunction, whether it be knee or back, comes from the hips. So that would have been it. Because you can see here, I switch over to the right leg and it's fucking easy as. So part of my tremendously weak legs on the squat, like relative to how big my legs actually kind of are, is just the fact that my left hip is all fucked up and I can't produce much force from my left leg. So I kind of get gatekeeped. But this then leads me to the last point, or one of the next points, I guess, probably last point, which is using machines. Especially if you got fucked up hips, fucked up back, you can't keep progressively overloading the barbell squat or deadlifts without pain, then fuck it, man, do machines. And not only should you do machines if your hips and back and shit are fucked up like me due to a whole multitude of different reasonings, you'll be able to progressively overload much more consistently and with actual, honesty. Because the thing about the squat, there's a lot of technical requirement. So from week to week, you might progress or regress based off technique. Same with the deadlift. You might find that you get injured easier based off those things being less stable. When movements are less stable, they require more neurological adaptations. In the neurological adaptations period, you won't build as much muscle because you can't recruit as many mono units. That's what's happening in neurological adaptations. You're getting more adapted at using more of your fibers. And until you can use all your fibers, you're not going to get anywhere as much hypertrophy. So for the first 6 months, 12 months of doing barbell squats, you might not get optimal gains just based off the fact that you're trying to get past a learning curve of technical prowess and neurological adaptations. Whereas if you went to a Smith machine, which I do now, no real technical requirement there at all. I mean, there's a little bit, but it won't last very long. You'll be about 2-3 weeks before you're actually able to recruit every motor unit or every high threshold unit recruited. So you'll get better hypertrophy. You'll be safer. You'll be able to consistently, progressively overload with more consistency because there's more standardization, or it's easier to standardize machines. And then you just generally have less of your stabilization components that are taking over. So when I do barbell box squats or barbell squats or deadlifts, for example, a lot of times my limiting factor is my inability to keep braced properly. I start feeling my core and lower back a lot before I can really feel the quadriceps. Whereas when I use a hack squat machine or a Smith machine, the core and lower back are definitely engaged and getting stronger, but they're not the limiting factor. The limiting factor is my quadriceps. So yeah, that's kind of my 3 things that I wish I knew about leg day before I started training legs. Is the first one being, I forgot what it was now actually. Oh yeah, do high intensity because it's going to be easier to adhere to. You'll be more consistent. And if I had done high intensity for the last 10 years, I'd have way bigger, stronger legs for sure. Then get your dysfunction fixed because that will stop your ability to be able to produce force and do good technique. And if your left leg's way weaker than your right, then your left leg has to catch up, and the whole host of issues that have come along my way due to these imbalances. And then the last thing is machines. The machines probably being the most important one. Machines are easy to use, which makes leg day a bit easier in general because people fucking hate leg day. If you're taking the high intensity pill for your leg day to make more consistent, machines are better also, because if you're doing barbell squats to failure and you fail, well, now you're fucked. I mean, you can put safety pins up, but even then, if you fail with a barbell squat, typically it's your lower back failing first, and then you're at risk of injury. And then again, there's more technique required. There's a lot of inconsistencies, and when you're doing those last 2 grinding reps with a heavily unstable movement like a barbell squat, yeah, that's just no good for hypertrophy or safety or standardization. So the machines will only exacerbate your high intensity training experience, or amplify it perhaps. I don't know what word to use here. And then also machines are really good for unilateral work. And again, if you are like me and you have fucked up hips and shit, then there's a good chance that one of your glutes or one of your quads or one of your hamstrings or all of the 3 is one of them is just not firing properly and not as strong. And then it's a bit easier to do unilateral work. The only thing that I do now that uses free weights is the Bulgarian split squat, because my left glute is weaker, and I just so happen to like the Bulgarian split squat the most. But even then, I'm holding onto the rack because I don't want to have to balance, because balance would then require stability, which then can throw off standardization and motor unit recruitment. So yeah, high intensity training, fix your shit, get doing yoga, get doing unilateral movements, and then use machines so that the learning curve is much shorter and you can just continuously, strictly, safely, progressively overload. That would be my big 3 for making sure that you now do leg day at its fullest. Anyway, peace out, bye.